We be live. Hello, Durud and Shalom. Okay, let's see who is. Let's go to our group discussion and jump right in. How's my audio? Ooh, I forgot to set the goal. I forgot. Let's actually set the goal before we go in. Oh my God, I made a mistake. So let me just set that up really quickly and mute this. And then we're going to go jump right into the discussion group with the other people there. Let me set this up. Start. My audio is okay, right? So we can see people are already here in the call, in our group call, discussing things, and we're going to join them right now. First, let me turn on my camera and my microphone, and let's just join right in.
Like someone like this, they wouldn't care if it's traced. They're gonna. I mean,
Hey,
they're gonna die.
Armin.
What's up, Armin?
Hello, hi.
We were just talking about the shooting.
Oh, what are you discussing?
The shooting in Montreal.
Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have been this upbeat.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's all right. We don't know of any casualties yet. We know that, according to Tutsi, he was targeting Jews, and then the police got involved. So I only saw one that might have been hit. That was a police officer, and that's because he was way too close.
Neil Bunny is saying police officer is dead.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Fucking hell. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. I'll mute.
Are we live?
One. Yeah, we are. Yes. And Neil Bunny is saying another one is in critical condition. Shit. Who did this? Do we know? Okay,
Guess who?
Yeah, I know. Sketch, you're modding?
Yes, I can. I just got here, so anyone's, let me know in the chat. I think everybody. I don't see anybody new. You guys know how it works. Keep your mics muted, please. Anyone's, put them in the chat. Oh, I see a one from Richard. Anyone's, put them in the chat, and I'll add them to the list of topics. Any twos during a topic, and I'll add it to the list of responses. The other, like, this is public. Remember, whatever you post on the side, may understand that it's going to be public, and off we go.
There was a one before. Jeffrey put a one in the chat, so it was Jeffrey and then Richard and then Samantha. So let's go with Jeffrey first, and Susie is here. Hi, Susie. Okay, yeah. All right, so let's go with Jeffrey.
What's up, Cricket?
Yeah.
So quick kind of overview regarding the shots in Montreal. So preliminary report. Police responded to reports of shots fired around 11:35 Eastern Standard Time in Cote de Neigis neighborhood. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't speak French. So, there was heavy police response. There was about over 20 shots fired. They gave out orders to shelter in place. Police engaged suspect in a shootout. Suspect was later neutralized, meaning he was killed. As of the assessment right now, one Montreal police officer was killed in line of duty. One civilian was killed. At least one additional police officer was injured. The reports are varying as they're kind of, fleshing things out. It very much is in keeping with, or at least preliminary reports show that it was anti-Semitic in nature, targeting the Jewish population, including Shabbat House, Jewish schools, and it's in keeping of the broader rise of anti-Semitism in Canada. As far as the weapon that was used, and this is, again, very preliminary, it's very hard to see the video and all that. It looks like an SKS-style semi-automatic rifle, which is a common Soviet-designed rifle produced during the Soviet era of the Cold War. It's very often modified. They produced them by the gazillions. It's chambered in a 7.62 times 39 ammunition round, which is common Soviet Eastern Bloc ammunition. That's pretty much what we got as of right now.
Thank you for letting us know. Okay. Sketch, what are we? Do you want to move to the next step?
I don't see any other twos in the chat. I would like to add to that this is because of the permissiveness and the way that Montreal and Canada handle these types of situations. They have a lot of deference to Islam. They have a lot of they will not address who are the people causing problems, like because they don't. For example, if there's a crime, they won't print the person's last name if the last name is of a certain designation, right? If it's Ahmed or Mohammed, they won't print the name. But if it's Lewis or Joe, they will print it. So there's a certain first of all, the two-tier policing is probably a problem, but I'm definitely seeing two-tier reporting, and that gives a certain permissiveness, because if you are allowing one side to call the other evil, but when the side that calls the other side evil actually does evil, and you hide that, that's a problem. Like I guarantee you, if you go over all over Canadian media, which is mostly leftist media, they're going to tell you how evil the Jewish people are, how they control everything, and it's going to be everywhere, and there's going to be no one policing that. Now, if you talk wrong about a certain country or a certain religion or about immigration in general, there's going to be a problem. What does that do? That's as I may be wrong about this, but I heard that was also a problem with the Hutus and the Tutsis, where the media was just allowed to, how I would say, dehumanize one section of the population. When these things happen, you have a person that's maybe ideological, maybe religiously inclined, but the situation around isn't helping. The news isn't helping. So I think that's also a problem to look at. And we have gained some twos on this topic. I see Noah. Noah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my condolences to the police officer's family and any of the other victims. I can't imagine what they're all going through. And also, like, I don't know how it is in Canada, but I know in the United States, if a police officer is killed and they catch the suspect, they, it's usually dealt pretty harshly. But Sketch is also completely right about dehumanization. That's what happened with the Jews when Hitler took power. They started dehumanizing them slowly until a point where, and I think that's what this happened in Rwanda as well. I think he's right on that too. So, but yeah, my condolences to the police officer's family and all the victims.
All right. Next to respond on this topic, we have Jose.
Okay, I'm taking this directly from what I found on some French language accounts out of Montreal. Breaking news, first reports of shootings and injuries in a kosher supermarket in Montreal. The second piece, initial reports indicate several terrorists and a possible hostage situation in a kosher supermarket located in Montreal's Beth Chabad. There's really not that much other than that, other than the ex post that Grease Monkey posted to the chat earlier. But that kind of like makes me wonder if it's over or not. That's all I got to say. Just bring you up to date.
All right. That may be an early report. One thing it definitely says is where it happened, a kosher place. So it makes it far more likely that even if it's not a synagogue, that the motivation was anti-Semitism and hatred of Israel and Judaism. I would like to echo, like, in the name of all of us, that our condolences go out to the officer and their family and anybody hurt by this, and our blessings, or our wishings of good luck and protection go over the Jewish community over there. Make sure that Everything goes by right by them. And in this incident, that only the crazy person, the terrorist dies, and no one else. It's a great loss when the protector of a community is, in the line of their duty. Like, they know what they signed up for, but it is a loss, always a great one. And, we always commend them for the bravery. So, our condolences to Canada and this person's family. Wyatt would like to comment on this. Go ahead, Wyatt.
Yeah, to add to that, in New Jersey, some guys going around throwing acid in women's face. Read the article, no mention of the guy's name, so you know what his religion was. That's just all I wanted to add.
That does go to the point that the media has a biased reporting on this, and it's very obvious. And we stand against these kinds of terrorist attacks, anti-Semitism, anti-Christian, anti-whatever. This is uncalled for and horrible. Next up, we have Samantha. Go ahead, Samantha.
Samantha?
Suspect of yeah, can you hear me? I just wanted to say that the suspect of the acid attack, he is a minor, so I understand correlation with not releasing identity in certain instances, but they wouldn't release the identity in this case because he is a minor. I think he's like a teenager who is a suspect, so they can't release identity.
That makes sense. That's a good point. All right. I think with that, we've closed on this topic. I don't see any other twos. The next topic I have is from Richard. I would like to check with Armin. Armin, would you like to have some words on this?
I think you guys said everything that needed to be said. Just this is why we all need to be fighting. This is everywhere is slowly getting worse, and then just don't be observers. Everybody is many people think that they're on the right side of this because they are observing this and they're correctly calling this wrong and bad. But you're not really on the right side of this if you're just an observer and you're not doing anything about it, right? If you're just an observer and just watching this and you're upset about the way things are going and just coming and consuming the news and correctly identifying that this is not good, that is really not helpful. The news is just basically a way for you're just consuming content as a way to pass time and be entertained and be, it's just like reading a novel. Sometimes it's a comedy, sometimes it's a tragedy, but you're just passing time watching the news. That's what you're doing. So I just want to encourage people to, if they're concerned about your country, if you're a patriot and you think that your country is worth defending, then actually get active and do something about it.
To add to that, we have Jeffrey. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, just a real quick follow-up. I would contend it's also indicative of destabilization and amplification efforts by our adversaries via gray zone conflict. So hybrid warfare from Putin, unrestricted warfare from Chicoms, and or the regime remnants and their sub-state transnational proxies that seek to exacerbate and or amplify interpersonal kind of tension that in many ways is underwritten by structural, socio-cultural, and economic issues. In other words, we have all these different things hitting each other, so everybody's in a constant state of agitation. Our adversaries look for that and then try to pour gas on whatever little fire they find to turn that into other things. So, Armin's not wrong. It's not just you can't look at these things as isolated incidents. That doesn't mean that they're like all meeting underground and like the Legion of Doom. I'm saying that's in a broader environment that is very much being actively targeted by our adversaries.
100%. Do we have any super chats?
No super chats, no.
All right, I'm going to go ahead with Richard. Richard's topic is the effect of surprise Israeli reunification attack. Effect of surprise Israeli unification attack.
Thanks a
Go
lot.
ahead,
Yeah,
Richard.
Armin, I'm just curious, given what's been happening lately with the MOU and the aim of Durka, palace intriguing and the inter-regime fighting, hypothetically speaking, if Israel were to launch a surprise attack tomorrow to, and again, assuming that he's even alive, to reunite Mushtaba with the rest of his family, what effect do you think that would have on the current situation?
What effect would that have on the MOU?
No, on the regime's infighting and basically stability.
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Depends on what they hit. Give me a scenario. Like, what are they hitting? Are they taking out the remaining officials, or are they?
So yeah, they made some threats just prior to the MOU about related to regime change and ending the Khamenei bloodline, which I think you could interpret as a direct threat against Mushtaba. Yeah, and they obviously know that the MOU's created intra-regime fighting and a lot of tensions and it's exposed the Haidari camp as basically a clear opponent of the Khalibaf camp. I'm curious if this were to happen hypothetically, just what you think. Let's say Mushtaba and some top Mushtaba loyalists in the office of the supreme leadership were all simultaneously either targeted or wiped out. I'm thinking maybe that this could give the Haidari people some ammunition and say, look, you were dealing with our enemy the whole time. They were tricking you. They were playing you. And a way to erode that legitimacy and sort of, turn that Cold War into a hot war inside the regime.
Yeah, it will escalate. So, the negotiations and the ceasefire did cause a lot of internal division. That was helpful. So you might think that I would say going back to war would unite them, but I think that the division has been is now very deep, and if we don't go back to kinetic, military operations soon, the Ghalibaf camp, because the Ghalibaf camp has so much of an upper hand right now that it is going to eventually be able to figure out how to silence the people who are standing against it. It has been very effective so far. Even though we are seeing some divisions, it's not leading up to much to challenge Ghalibaf's authority right now. So it would be actually helpful right now to go back in right now, right? So just because I'm saying that the negotiations and the ceasefire cause a division, that doesn't mean that endless ceasefire and negotiations will continue increasing the division. Switching back and forth is actually the best way to continue doing that. And I think that you're right. Like right now, if you when Ghalib, so stopping the war and making these people try to fill in the power vacuum, increase the division, and now the power vacuum is being filled with and Ghalibaf has the upper hand. So right when you see some stability, that's when you need to change strategies. So right now, if we go back to military operations, right as things are stabilizing, I think then you need to be on a roller coaster, right? As soon as this might sound crazy, but war sometimes brings stability to the Islamic Republic. So right when the war is bringing stability, you go to ceasefire, and then if you stay in ceasefire, eventually the ceasefire will become the new stable condition. And as soon as you see that you're causing some, one person is having the upper hand, is causing some stability, then you need to switch again back to war. So I do think killing Mujtaba and making it clear that Mujtaba is dead. Don't touch the Haidari camp. They are the best one for us. They are actually the ones that cause the most division. I think killing Ghalibaf will basically make it very difficult for the regime to have anybody to talk to. It would be the end of, killing Ghalibaf could potentially bring the ends of any forms of negotiations. I just don't think I think the Americans will be really, really pissed if that happens right now. Right. So I don't think that, I do agree that this right now, if we start bombing again, it would be the most effective strategy against the Islamic Republic if we did it right now. But if the Americans really want to do, not mess with the midterms and oil prices and affordability and all of that, and if they have and worse, if they have the Venezuela model in plan for the Islamic Republic, then Israel would have to calculate which would be better: do this to weaken the Islamic Republic significantly while pissing off their main ally, or not do this and try to maintain their main ally as continue. Because remember, like, the Israelis are looking at the anti-Israeli sentiment increasing in United States, and they know that if they do this right now, everybody like there's going to be so much ammunition. They're like, look, these people are not letting us have peace. Like, they brought us the main narrative is going to be like, they dragged us into a war, and now when we want to get out of it, they're not letting us. And it will be like, I think it will significantly increase the anti-Israeli sentiment on all sides in the United States. I'm not saying it will take over 100%. Obviously, many Americans will continue to be pro-Israeli, but I think it would be a catalyst towards being more anti-Israeli in the United States. So I think the Israelis are looking at the poll numbers and how the Americans are turning against Israel, and they are mindful of that as well. Does that answer? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I agree. I appreciate the analysis. Thank you. Javicha.
Javisha.
All right. I don't see any more twos on this. I would throw a couple of other things out there. If it's only 2 weeks, that may be okay. Number one. Number two, I don't think it'll last 2 weeks. I think they're going to start firing. I think there was some stuff happening yesterday. We had some updates. I wasn't able to see what happened later because, it was a holiday and I had to do other stuff. But I doubt that there's some stability there. There's another part of this. Trump very clearly says, if this fails, it's on Vance. If it works, I take the credit. Anybody think it's going to work? No. I think Vance is going to get hoisted by his own petard, and Rubio is going to be set up to be president, right? Because Trump is like, you know what? All right, go for it. I'll give you 2 weeks. Get this done. You had your chance already in Pakistan. That didn't work out. We had to stop even thinking of flying you out for these bullshit meetings. But you want to give it another shot? Okay, give it another shot. It's a little closer. We can do that. Let's give you 2 weeks on your bullshit plan. See if it works. If this goes the way it's going, it may not be just a play about the midterms. It may be a play to make Rubio the next president. Because I don't believe who could have or Vance isn't even gonna run. He wants to retire or go back to being a senator and say, hey, look, we tried. I gave it my best shot. Blah blah blah. And he lets the path open for Rubio, and he steps back. Like, this could be like, yeah, of course we're going to bomb again. This is why this is only 2 weeks. But there could be other political things moving on the chessboard. It's like he said it so clearly, and Rubio was so serious behind him that I was like, that's very interesting. It's incredibly interesting. I don't think it's going to last at all. And I do think there will be stability. On what you said, I remember what you said. Remember this morning when he was like, we're going to have the congressional meeting in the stairs in front of the door. We're going to sit in front of the door and have a little Congress meeting or Senate meeting right at the door. And, he start naming names of the people that, wait a minute, what do you mean? You agreed to this stuff. It was hilarious. I could feel your joy emanating. I was feeling it in my heart. It was fantastic.
So Sketch is referring to a member of parliament within the Islamic Republic being angry that the parliament is still closed, and Ghalibaf is not opening the parliament and claiming that there's a coup d'etat happening inside the Islamic Republic. That's what he's referring to. Yeah. Also, Sketch, there was Shadi was mentioning in the chat that let me see where she said that President Trump gave Vance 2 months, not 2 weeks. So I don't know which number.
I did misspeak on that. I apologize. Wait, let me get my happy monkey face on. I do apologize. I did misspeak on that, Shadi. It's correct. It was 2 months. Personally, I doubt. Well, I mean, if it was up to me, we'd be doing the boom boom. Like, we'd be showing them Jeff's 5x5 plan. If it's up to me, right? I'm not gonna like, go, I hate the president, he's an idiot, blah blah blah. But like, if you're asking me my opinion is we should be bombing them. That's my opinion. But I do recognize there's other factors at play, not all of them political, but maybe some of them. And I am noticing what Armin is talking about, the destabilization inside is happening. It may be a good time to strike, but the destabilization is more open now. There's more open infight. Like, remember when they say, blockade the strait? We need to blockade the airport to stop this guy from going over there and trying to make deals. Remember that? That was so funny. That was hilarious.
So let me give you another update. I see some other people put twos in the chat, but Sketch, there's going to be, I'll show another video on Ali's segment, like after this, when I go live with Ali. There's another video that you guys are going to enjoy within the Islamic Republic, that they're reading the first line within the MOU on state TV. And apparently the first line within the MOU says that the MOU has been violated if each side threatens the other one, right? And they're like, President Trump just threatened, like he came out and said you're not gonna leave you're not gonna even be able to get back to your fucking country. There's not gonna be any fucking country left for you. I'm gonna close the Strait of Hormuz. Like, I'm gonna, we're gonna control it. We're gonna get 20% toll or whatever. So they're reading it, and they're like, okay, then the MOU has been violated. Ghalibaf, come home. Like, why are you still negotiating? President Trump just violated the MOU, right? So they're like, so there's that. And then I also have another clip that says from within Iran that I'll show, and somebody is going to use a Quran. Like, you'll see, so I'll get to that. But there's a lot of videos that I'm sitting on that shows the internal drama within the Islamic Republic. I'll cover more of them in the next stream.
All right. Next to reply on this topic, make sure I got the right one here. 1 second, please. Wyatt.
Sketch, one of the main jobs of a vice president is to take the heat off the president. Spiro Agnew was very famous for taking all the heat off of Nixon. And anybody who was bitching at Nixon, he'd take the blame for it, so they wouldn't go after the president. Like I said, that's what Vance is doing too. That's all.
That is indeed very possible. The only thing Trump basically said what you said. Like, if this goes wrong, I'm blaming him. If it goes right, I'm taking the credit. So, like, Trump agrees with you. That's apparently part of his job. And next up is Ramens.
Yo. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right. I just had one perspective of the Vance thingy. Like, this guy, he has been in politics for 3 years, and he's not young. So he has worked most of his career as a venture capitalist at Mithril Capital, and his mentor, Peter Thiel, is also Tucker Carlson's best friend. So I just believe Trump is just making sure Marco Rubio will be the next president. And that's my 2 cents in that.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Noah.
Yes, I think when Trump said that, he was repeating what a reporter had said, because I remember watching the video and it was a reporter that suggested that, and then Trump sort of jokingly agreed with that he was going to blame JD if it failed. But yeah, you were right. It was 2 months.
Also, he has used this before. He has said this exact same thing before. Like, if it works, I'll take the credit. If it doesn't, I'll blame. Maybe it was Vance the last time he said it, but he has used those words before. So the reporter might be quoting him on a different occasion, and he might be quoting himself back to, like, it might be like a circular thing, like an inside joke, like a meme they got. But it doesn't stop it from being true. It doesn't stop it from being a possibility. All right, with that, I think we have the twos, and we should probably move on to super chats, right?
Yes. So we got 3 super chats. Fleshy Interloper saying no super chats? Question mark. Well, now we do. Thank you, Fleshy. And Leo with a super chat saying so grateful for this community and send my heart and love for my love and my hugs. Thank you, Leo. That's very sweet. And I also love your profile pic with the little puppy and the lion and sun flag. It's beautiful. It always makes me smile every time I see that. And then Fleshy Interloper with another super chat saying the straight shipping dropped due to hiked insurance rates. New graph in school. Okay, so guys, this actually goes back to what Sketch keeps telling us. So apparently the Strait of Hormuz, Sketchy always keeps an eye on the tanker movement, and he posts it on the first page of our community. So keep an eye on that if you want to be updated on that. So yeah, so apparently the shipping numbers have dropped because insurance numbers just went up. So thank you, Fleshy, for keeping an eye on that. Okay, so what's the next topic?
All right, the next topic we have is from Samantha on Islamic Republic intercontinental missiles. Go ahead, Samantha.
Okay. Yeah, just to start off with, keep in mind, I really, really want to go back to war. I absolutely want to go back to war. I would make going back to war a thing if I could. I want to see this regime fall. I am incredibly pessimistic about what I think it would take to ever get the U.S. to go back to war with the Islamic Republic. I think the only way the U.S. is going back to war with the Islamic Republic is it would have to be stupidly, painfully obvious that we got no fucking choice but to go to, they're not going to leave. I think the only way we're going back to war with the Islamic Republic is if we have a scenario where they've about to achieve a nuke. They've achieved nuke and have already started attempting to use a nuclear weapon somewhere, or they will not stop throwing missiles at U.S. assets or throwing missiles outside of the Middle East until we basically do something until we agree to do something remove all our bases out of the Middle East. We can't get them to make an agreement for money or even taking all sanctions, including allowing them nuclear proliferation. We can't make any such deal with them to get them to stop basically bombing, a U.S. asset or bombing Europe or something like that. I literally think that's what it would take. So given that that's kind of my thought process, I'm thinking maybe it would actually be a good thing if they had an intercontinental missile, because I think I know you're please don't yell at me. I'm coming from a point of view of, I think it's going to take something very extreme to get us back to war. And I think that is probably the absolute less horrifically thing that would still be extreme enough to get us back to war. So please don't yell at me, because it's not like I want Europe bombed or some crazy shit. I'm just thinking I think something horrible is going to happen.
When did we ever yell at you? When did we ever yell at you? Did we, Samantha, have I ever, a single time have I yelled at you for this to be the second time?
I have PTSD. I appreciate Armin very much for being so nice.
Okay. Not only I would not yell at you, anybody here yelling at you, will be stopped immediately. Okay.
All right. I'm not only not gonna yell, I'm gonna agree. but I'm going to change the parameters. It doesn't have to be a nuclear weapon. These guys could have biological weapons that we detect, and we're like, oh, I guess we got to go back in. These guys could have all kinds of weapons that we don't know about that could lead us to go back in. We already saw them use cluster bombs. So if they set off a cluster bomb, that would force us to go back in. Like, yeah, we would. There are things. I'm not going to agree that we should hope that they have. Like for accelerationism, that's basically accelerationism, where you say, "Yeah, sure, let Mandami take New York. Maybe that'll flip him red once he gets done with them." That's a classic technique known as accelerationism. Let him go really, really bad, so bad that, like, let's say all South America is turning red. Why? Because they went so blue that they were like, "No, we're not doing this." I get that. I wouldn't want that on ballistic missiles. But like from a pure pragmatist perspective, I understand that we may be stalling them for those 2 months until they force us. And can they force us within those 2 months? Can they do it? Yes, they can do it. And I think cluster munitions would probably do it. And any bio anything would do it. Also, if they just, let's talk about the nuclear thing. If they get it from Pakistan, if they get it from somewhere else, that would also do it. So are there red lines that would force us to cross? Yes. Maybe we would wait more until we hit one of those red lines. So I'm gonna give Sam a little credit here on a strategic level that there is a point there. And this is a more thoughtful perspective. This isn't a gut emotional reaction. She had to think about it. I'd like to support that. I'd like to credit that. I'd like to give her flowers when they're there.
See, Sketch, Sam, you were expecting people to yell at you. You got a military person to agree with you. See, you got the opposite of what you were expecting.
All right. Next to comment on this, I have Noah. Go ahead, Noah.
Okay, that's better. I also will agree, and I'm not going to yell either, because I also found out recently.
Are you capable of yelling, Noah?
I am capable of yelling.
Okay.
Yeah, I can yell right now. No, I'm not going to yell. But to be all serious, real quick before I get to my point, I also just got diagnosed with PTSD from being bullied as a kid. So I also will not yell. So, but it's, I'm okay and I'm dealing with it. But
all right, let's go to
I'll get to my point.
Topic, yes.
Okay, yeah. But to my point, I also want us to go back to war. But I also know the reasons what Jeffrey has said is because of our munition problems and stuff. So I hope that gets resolved really quickly so that we can start back to boom booms.
Okay.
All right. Next on this topic, we have Jose.
Hey, Samantha, no yells from me. I happen to agree with you, and I hope it's an intercontinental ballistic missile and not a nuclear weapon, because we know what their mentality is. Israel will get nuked, and then Israel will respond with their nukes. That's how business is done. If you attack with a weapon of mass destruction, Israel will return the favor. So I'm hoping it's an intercontinental. I hope they make a mistake of shooting it over Turkey. I hope they make that kind of mistake. Better chance actually going to hit land if they shoot it over Turkey than shoot it over Iraq and the rest and send it toward the Mediterranean. Good point, Carl. Good point. I'm proud of you.
All right. Next up to touch on this topic, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I think she meant me. I'm not going to yell at you, Sam. That was actually a very good question. Like, I'm actually right proud of you that you asked that question. So, and it's like it cuts to the core of the issue regarding the threats posed by the Mullah regime, now regime remnants. So it's true, like having a ballistic missile, like what would it need to have impetus for the United States to go back to military operations? Having ballistic or demonstrating a ballistic missile capability particularly if they had WD capability, would definitely goose us. Here's the challenge. So in the 12-day war, we burned through 27% of our THAAD interceptors in 11 days. In the 15-day Operation Epic Fury, we burned through 67 additional percent of our THAADs and about 50-something% of our Patriot 3s and a little over 50-something% of our SM-3 interceptors, which is our sea-based mid-course leg of our overall global missile defensive architecture, right? That's like serious shit. So I agree we need to go back to military campaigns because of the munitions that we spended, and we had to expend them. A lot of our critical munitions we spent more than we should have because certain elements out of Western NATO allies fucked us, right? They didn't let us use our heavy bombers. Any strike package that would go forward would almost, and this is what 5x5 was about, and it still is. I just pushed it up the chain again. Is very much munitions over target, right? So we don't want to use long range strike munitions that take forever to build, and we're building that out. We're using general purpose bombs with GPS guided munitions so that they're very accurate. We have hundreds of thousands of them, and we can get that all done. That said, because we burned through the interceptors the way we did, if we do, it's got to be one that's going to like really suppress the Mullah regime's capability, which is why you'd have to have all those bombers hit their targets all at once. So they're all coalescing time over target at once. And the global bed down strategy to do that's not an easy lift. We could do it. It would be like, you can't put all the bombers in Diego Garcia, right? The island's only so big. And if we're not being allowed to use our bases out of Europe, or if we have some assholes like Starmer as his last fuck you on his way out, tips off the Mullah regime or whatever, we may not do that. So we have to find alternative means to base them. That's the bed down strategy, like where you're going to base your bombers, load them up, fuel them, so they all kind of take off and all hit their targets, or they got to, at the same time and all that. There's that. Here's the issue. Again, outside of that issue, you don't know when the Mullah regime has that capability, right? We didn't know if they had the range that they had when they fired at Diego Garcia, right? They lied, or they, being the Mullah regime and or regime remnants, lied about the capability. Go figure, they're bad guys. If they have nuclear weapons, they would almost assuredly use it. Like ICBMs are a delivery system; they're not a weapon in and of itself. And biological war weapons, you wouldn't even know they had them. That's what makes them so goddamn dangerous. So where does it leave us? I definitely agree with Samantha that we should definitely go back to military operations. It has to be comprehensive, or you're just going to kill the regime dead, period. You take out every tank, every APC, every towed and self-propelled artillery piece, every helicopter, every IRGC and besieged headquarters down to the, I can't pronounce the fucking, I just can't get that thing to come out of my mouth, Armin. The neighborhood HQ, right, all the way down. All the leadership down to lieutenants, everything in the strait, all gone. We could do it. That can be done. It'll be a very heavy lift, because we're going to have to base things outside of Europe because not everybody in Europe fucked us. Not everybody in NATO. I also want to dovetail this into something else that's kind of crucial regarding this. This is why you cannot wait till crises present themselves for you to do the investment you need in things like strategic missile defense. There's a reason guys like me pushed very hard for direct energy based strategic defense, right? And that President Trump is doing that with Golden Dome and all this other stuff, because direct energy based defenses, you don't have to worry about your, cost production exchange ratio, because all you need is electricity. And there's definitely ways to do it, right? We had the ABL. I actually knew General Dunn. I knew him and Dean Gallucci and fucking Madam Not Too Bright. And the General Dunn, who was the head of the ABL program, which was a kind of a multi-megawatt open cycle coil chemical pump laser on a 747. It actually worked. there's some other logistical issues why they didn't go forward with it, because OpenSite, I don't want to belabor the point. The concept is very much valid. So, we should be doing things like that so we don't get into this problem again. Either way, I very much agree. That was a very good question and observation, Smith. I'm actually right proud of you. Well done.
All right. I would like to say that this reminds me of the first time I ever saw Jeffrey. It's a wonderful day. And I'll never forget the first time I saw Jeffrey. It's not because he's handsome, though he is. It's because I was desperately typing in chat that to show him the people on the streets, on the vehicles wearing mop suits. Because he had an assessment, but I think he hadn't at that time seen the videos of them wearing mop suits, and they had some kind of like weird delivery vehicles. And I was desperate in the chat. He knows his stuff. If you show him the mop suits, he will understand that this is not normal. This is not just we're spreading tear gas. You don't use this shit for tear gas, right? I knew it in my heart, but I'm like, oh my God, this guy knows his stuff. If I could just get that, and eventually Armin and Goldie, I think they were both on that day. You showed it to him, and he said, no, that's okay. There's something else going on here. So if we just look by things that they deployed during the first massacre, well, the latest massacre, we know that there are possibilities that they do have these things and they do deploy them. I don't know what concentration. I don't know what type. It could be bio, it could be chemical. It did seem chemical. And I would, it does give me pause. It doesn't just have to be nuclear. There could be other things that accelerate this. And, it's just good to remember first time I saw Jeffrey, I love this guy. Okay. Enough of that. Next to respond to this, we have Wyatt.
How you doing, Samantha? You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we do. Like with the way we do it is that we can't. If she gives it, because we don't want to do mic over mic. So if she can hear you, she gave you a thumbs up.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I didn't see that. I just wanted to apologize to you. I called you stupid and evil for being a Maoist, and the reason I kind of rag on you a lot of times is I was involved in some pretty fucked up shit. And political cults, and for like 31 years of my life, and a lot of times when you talk, I see myself. And if you ever want to talk to somebody to get out of all this cult shit, like maybe call me up or something, or we can chat, because I was involved in more fucked up shit than you were. Well, that's just it. Like I said, if you ever want to talk, that's it.
No, that's
all right. Seeing yourself in other people is good. Sometimes you see the bad of yourself in other people and it makes you angry. Sometimes you see the good and it makes you kind of proud. So, I hope that this, interlacing of the good and the bad, that we see each other. There's a passage in the Bible that says, now we see each other darkly, like mirroring each other. Right? Like by the people we love. The people we love, they make us very angry because we see ourselves in this and them. And they make us very happy because we see ourselves in that. This is the love of us seeing ourselves in each other, this connection. And one day we'll see face to face means, well, one day we'll know perfect love, right? So it's very good that we see each other in each other, the good and the bad. It helps us humanize each other. And I really appreciate that. And next to talk on this, we have Johan. Go ahead, Johan.
Yeah, hey, I just wanted to point out or to say that looking for what the Islamic Republic needs to do to give reasons for US to go back to attacking, they already did all of that over decades. Everything that we can think of. There needs to be no more reasons for US to go at it again and fucking destroy them. And I think that is what is important to remember. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. With that, we are closed on this topic. And if there is no more super chat, we can move on to the next.
There's there's one super chat, and I was hoping maybe you or Jeffrey could respond to it. Is Jeffrey here? Okay, so Fleshy Interloper, thank you so much for the super chat, saying, are there more manpads coming on the Shadow Fleet? So what do you think? Jeffrey, you want to go first?
Wait, does he mean that we wouldn't use manpads against elements of the regime?
I think no. I think I think he's saying if the CCP. So now that the blockade is removed, and because there are shadow fleets coming from China towards Iran, and Fleshy Interloper is thinking if there are more manpads probably on those ships.
Almost assuredly.
Oh.
And you wouldn't have to use a shadow fleet. Putin's been rearming the regime remnants to the Caspian, as you rightly know, and pointed out. Thank God you and Goldie pointed that shit out. They can come across the border of Pakistan. There's all different kinds of ways. Manpads are not large. They're easily transportable. Those wouldn't matter. Manpads are not going to have any aircraft fly above the range or altitude where they, above their altitude. And that we can do. Like the United States and or Israel, because we would definitely back them up with intelligence, like satellite intelligence, would be able to fly their aircraft at altitude, which is well above anything a manpad could hit you with. And then still put a warhead right on a forehead, because, our targeting is like second to none. So yeah, no, that's a very good point though, right? So obviously the regime remnants is going to try and use different elements of this to reconstitute its capability, which is why those different lines of effort I mentioned is so critical. Recognizing His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi as the head of the official government in exile via the transitionary government, streamlining the legal gates so that way we can start sitting there and really flooding in track 2 material support, not the least of which is training up teams to liberate give letters of marque to those teams so that they can actually liberate very large oil tankers and then bring them to a country that's accommodating, and then sell that on the market to our allies, deny it to our enemies, and deny the mullah regime the money that they could make to pay all that. So not only are you taking money away from the mullah regime, you're also giving money to the resistance. Yeah. That's called Operation Sovereign Tide, by the way.
I think it's a cool title. All right. I want to move on to the next topic then. This is from Wyatt. Could the single-shot Liberator gun be used in Iran?
Yeah, the Liberator, it was in World War II, they made the cheapest possible gun they made. I think it was a 45, and they dropped it into France, airdropped it into France, and the French resistance used it, and it was a single shot. It failed because they went against the Germans, because the Germans had machine guns, and if you have a single shot against a machine gun, you're going to lose. But I was thinking about, like with Iran, if we did something, made the cheapest possible gun, single shot, and basically they just used it to go hunting deers and walking behind a deer, shoot them in the back or something. I wonder if that'd be useful, because like I said, they just they drop like 1,000 at a time. They were cheap, crappy guns, but it's a good idea, or maybe not a good idea, but it's an idea. All right, that's it.
So given that Jeffrey is going to respond to this, I want to ask a question to Jeffrey to respond to both of them. I'm hearing that if the Iranian people get armed a little bit, especially with things that are not high tech and cheap, it might actually be more devastating. Like if you want to arm them, you have to arm them good, and you have to arm them right, and you have to train them, and you have to give them high tech stuff. Some people, I don't know if this is true, they're saying that if you arm the Iranian people a little bit, or basically give them cheap stuff, this is the argument. They think the Islamic Republic, when they came out in early January and massacred the Iranian people, they didn't stop massacring the Iranian people because they thought, okay, let's not kill more people, because they would go to millions if they had to. They only stopped massacring the Iranian people because the Iranian people were retreating, and they're going back home. They will keep shooting until the resistance stops. That's how long they will keep shooting. So their argument is that if you arm the Iranian people a little bit, or what you do is that they will keep fighting instead of going home, and the Islamic Republic will keep shooting, and instead of having, I don't know, 100,000 on your dead bodies, you're going to have 1,000,000 dead bodies. That's what's going to happen. So some people are saying, if you're going to arm the Iranian people, make sure it's something so complete and so high tech and in such high numbers that we're not going to get something like that happening. So yeah, what do you think, Jeffrey?
Both those. So with regards to, I'm going to touch on Wyatt, then I'm going to, I don't want to say circle back because it's so dull. I'm going to swing to your question, Armin. So Ryan Macbeth actually mentioned this in his podcast about a month and a half ago. I actually talked because a lot of people have floated the idea of the Liberator pistol, and there's like pluses and minuses to these different approaches. Sure, does it mean like, you know, a brave Iranian protester has the ability to at least put one bullet in some asshole Basij's body when he's trying to rape her in a fucking rape dungeon? Sure. Is it like how you'd probably want to arm Iranian resistance? Probably not. I don't know. There's like a lot of different issues with the Liberator. The overall premise, though, of arming Iranian people, so that's true. Like you could, some of the ideas I've heard floated, including in this show, is providing some arms so that way you'd have like anti-mullah sniper teams, right? Like kind of like the good guy version of what happened in Montreal, right? So you have some ideas, as shitty as that sounds, right? I'm just saying because it's pertinent, right? That's what they're, just to put your head around it. So you have like an anti-mullah, a member of the anti-mullah regime resistance is like, you know, they're holed up inside the cities is like snipers, just like the mullah regime had snipers. And if you have some besieged douchebag running around just gunning people down, they take a bullet to the forehead. Sure, there's issues with that. I mean, it's not like something you can just lickety-splickety do. If it was, I mean, you know my approach, right? I mean, that's a long-term approach, though. You're talking about 87 weeks of training, you know, probably take you a couple of months to even get the funding, unless it was directly funded, say, a U.S. government or something. You could probably do that. That'd make it easier. So let's say you had all the funding ready to go. Training like the cadres are ready to go. 87 weeks, and after that, you have you'll have some of the most lethal combatants on the planet, sans Skynet or Delta Force in that order. That's true. And after that, the regime would be absolutely obliterated. That's true. That should be pursued no matter what. That said, right now, Iranian people are rightly, you know, wanting to, there are signals coming out that they want to finish the job because they're tired of hurting. That's also true. So the question becomes, how do you provide material assistance to Iranian resistance in a manner that maximizes the amount of impact that they can have, with that impact defined as expediting the fall of the regime remnants with the least amount of blood and treasure amongst the Iranian resistance? We talked about how, like, what that would be, right? Like, you'd want to put things together if you were going to be saying no training whatsoever. We're just going to give them stuff so they're just not lambs to the slaughter. Or I mean, you know, kind of like some of the routes. We've talked it on this show ad nauseum, haven't we, Armin? You have air, you know, you have potential air delivery, and even there's issues there. You know, company, you're talking about 37 pallets, 48,000 pounds, either two C-130Js or a C5, C-17, you know, something big. Yeah, that could give you enough for a company. You know, if you're not using all the stuff there, just giving them stuff to, you know, be good to be able to fight back in a street. So you probably get maybe 2 companies worth of stuff. Okay. Make sure they get it. I mean, that's the rub. How do you make sure the Iranian people get it? Or at least get enough of it so that whatever attrition you have vis-a-vis besiege, IRGC remnants, douchebags grabbing some of it, it doesn't matter. That's an issue. How do you get it to them? How do they know that it's coming? Or where to be? At what time? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff there. Do I think that we should definitely arm the Iranian people? Yes, because it just has to be done in the right way, which I don't want to go through too much of it on this show for any number of reasons. I don't want to see what happened in January again either. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be supporting Iranian resistance. We should just make sure that the attrition is not to that level. If it was up to me, I would just, bomb the shit out of the Mullah regime until they were dead, and then shit in their ashes and or brain jelly, because that's what they fucking deserve.
All right. Completely agreeing on that. It is a long training time, but I understand why Jeff wants this methodology. Like, I'm more about like separating the training into 3 groups so it's faster, like less than a year. But I get where he's coming from. Next on this topic, we have Richard. Richard, go ahead, please.
Quick update to what Jeffrey was talking about. I have confirmed with a contact in Montreal there has been a civilian killed in the terrorist attack. Michael Moshe Mizrahi was killed, they think, by police crossfire while he was trying to flee the scene. So may his memory be a blessing.
That's horrible. That's horrible. Our condolences go out to the families of all lost in this attack, and prayers go out to you. Yes, I mean there is such a thing as getting caught in the crossfire. People get trained. This happens. This happens in the military. This happens in policing. It's a terrible thing. I would like to wait and see exactly what went down before we say we're certain which where the shot came from. But we definitely 100% want to give our condolences to the family. And let me put the other one. We really, really don't like this anti-Semitism, this terrorism. Terrorism is terrible. Never, ever, ever get into the mind space where you think that violent force should be used for political means. You shouldn't do that in any country. You should seek as much as you can, as long as you have the methods to go through the political system. Like in a place with Iran, resistance goes to the streets because they have no other redress. They can't vote their way out of their situation. But in a place like Canada, in a place like I would say, well, UK is having a lot of problems, but they still have a system which they can vote. So always use that, even if you disagree with us and you have another stance. Never go to violence for political means or religious means. And with that, we go back to the topic. And next to speak on this topic of weapons and weapons drops, we have Noah. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, I would personally, as an Iranian American, I would want Iranians to be armed with quality weapons and not cheap weapons that can break really easily. That's just my 2 cents.
All right. Another thing about those weapons is I think some of them were for hunting. It was like a survival weapon, like you would try to hunt a deer if you found a rabbit or something. I'm not very sure, but it wasn't like it was kind of like I don't know if they sent it like that because it was like a sketchy situation for sending it. But with that, we're going to move on to super chats. So who do we have for super chats, Armin? I'm not hearing Armin. Is he muted for you guys?
Sorry, my microphone was muted. I'm sorry. I'm back. I was thanking Sketch for reminding us, and I also was thanking Justin for the super chat. I apologize for that. Justin is saying, is there any way us civilians could help arm the Iranians? Perhaps work with a US-based mercenary group or something, or is that too illegal? Jeffrey, do you have an answer to this?
That's a big part of the Track 2 material support strategy that was developed. There are certain legal gates that have to be followed for you to be able to legally support legal unconventional fighters. and there's like State Department ITARs lists and Snapper R and all this other stuff. Like, it's a lot. It would take me a while. I'm actually having classes outside of here that will go through some of that and how to like best do that. Be more than happy to have you there. We're going to go over a lot of that, like what you would need to do. There's like, how do I put this? There's non-kinetic, less, or one of the ways you could think about supporting Iranian resistance, like truly non-kinetic lines of effort, lesser kinetic lines of effort, kinetic lines of effort. So non-kinetic lines of effort is pre-bunking, debunking, mullah regime, like fucking disinformation, lawfare, right? So you're doing things like, for example, something similar to Dr. Mastrapa. She's actually a really cool lady. I met her at the Institute of World Politics 12 years ago, and she actually deals with, she's American. You'll love this, Jose. She's American of Cuban descent. I think she's also part Persian or Iranian. So I know she's part Cuban. And she did a lot of work in waging lawfare against the Castro regime, particularly regarding a lot of the art that the Castro regime stole. Right? So that's an example of lawfare. Non-kinetic lines of effort can be done right now. Lesser kinetic lines of effort, that's like things like open source intelligence. So you're doing like image-based intelligence.
Just one thing, Jeffrey, before you go on, just want to be mindful because YouTube's AI algorithm might think, so we have to be very careful with our language. Not that you're saying anything wrong, but YouTube's AI is so dumb sometimes. And when it comes to people, we need to talk about this in a way that it never thinks that we are about to do anything. So just be mindful of that. Yeah.
Yes, I'm not. This isn't meant to tell you to do this. I'm just saying how. And Armin's that's a very apt. Thank you, Armin, for reminding me. That this is just how you might think about it, right? Because he's answering, is there a way to do that? There's one of the ways you can think about what's legally permissible is to separate those different efforts into those three buckets. Lesser kinetic lines of effort, so intelligence stuff, things that like people did in support of anti-Assad forces, the Bellingcat model, like intelligence regarding doing open source intelligence assessment regarding genocide and war crimes and all the rest of that. Yep, you can do that. There's certain training that can be done there. That's legal. Kinetic lines of effort. This is the one you're asking about. There is like a lot, and I mean a lot, of legal gates you have to go through to be able to do that.
Yeah, and just to be clear, guys, we're not telling you to do any of this. This is not a call to action. It's just responding to a question. Yeah.
On that, go ahead.
Yeah. No. I just wanted to make sure. Like, actually, you know what? From in the future, the way we talk about, because even if we clarify this, people told me that we could still get in trouble because the AI will trigger and then there's nobody that you contact. I think the way we talk about this, just to be mindful and not to trigger YouTube, shouldn't be like, we shouldn't say you can do this, because I know it's hypothetical and we're not telling people that you should go ahead and do this. But just by saying you can do this, you can do that, then the AI might think we're telling people, giving people suggestions, right? So it's really tricky, and this is something that YouTube is very, very sensitive about. In fact, I actually went and deleted a whole bunch of live streams that I was talking about this because of exactly this. So we have to be very careful about this. I might actually even delete this live stream just because of this question. So yeah, but not that you did anything. Yeah, not that you did anything wrong, Jeff.
No, I know that.
I'm just saying YouTube is like so annoying.
I don't want anything to happen to your channel either, Armin. You are very much the focal point and a mouth and the voice for a lot of people inside of Iran, like Iranian resistance. I would never want anything bad to happen to your channel. No, I'll just end with this. If you're interested in those kinds of discussions and you're part of, just send me a PM. I'll be running a Zoom that'll just like explore that intellectually.
There you go.
Do that. And because that's going to be starting tomorrow.
There you go. And then we got another super chat from Che, thank you so much, Che, saying, Armin, I made you something. I emailed you yesterday. Okay, I just saw it. It's me as a mullah. Okay, I mean, okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. It's me with at the mullah with the white turban. Well, thank you for that. Okay. It is funny. It is funny. Thank you. Thank you. And then Noah, thank you so much with a super chat, the Persian American in the chat saying, thanks for keeping me on topic earlier, man. No worries. Glad to be of service. And then thank you for your support, Noah. And then Lou and Kay, thank you for, I mean, I think I read that wrong. I don't know if I read that wrong, but thank you so much for the super chat. Luan K. No, I don't know. Okay, saying the IDF has confiscated so many weapons from Hezbollah strongholds, they can't have Mossad use those weapons to. They can't. Oh, this is a question. They can't have Mossad use those weapons to arm the Iranian people. So, Jeffrey, can they do that?
You mean like find where the besieged and IRGC dispersed a lot of their, let's say, small arms and or TA-50 and equipment, and then liberate them, provide them to Iranian resistance? I'm guessing, is that the question?
Yeah, that's the question. I think so.
I mean, it's a good question, and it's a thing that should be looked at. That's all I'll say.
Okay. And apparently I'd read the name correctly, Lou and Kay. Thank you. I think it's a shared account between two people. I think. Okay. So yeah, that was it. Sketch, what's the next topic?
I would say on the using liberated weapons that Iran funded against Iran would add the weapon of humiliation and irony to those weapons, because it would be very ironic. But with that, we go to our next topic from Noah. Sanctions lifted in exchange for I think this is an IAEA inspectors and Strait reopen.
That's the International Atomic Agency.
Energy Agency? Okay.
Yeah. Wait, what does that say? IAEA is basically the people who do the inspections when it comes to International Atomic Energy Agency. Yes. Okay. So they basically when it came to the JCPOA, it was for all of these years, it was the IAEA that had to be inside Iran, and they had their cameras on in the enrichment uranium facilities, checking everything, making sure everything is accounted for, and the Islamic Republic is not going above what they should be. One thing I could tell you is that they could only check these things in the areas that were agreed upon beforehand, which is. Then we were wondering, like, okay, but what if the Islamic Republic is enriching uranium somewhere else? And we're like, no, they're not. And we're like, what do you mean, huh? What do you mean they're not? And then we figured out they were. Like, they did exactly what you expected them. So the IAEA was monitoring the Islamic Republic for so many years, and they were like, they're complying by the JCPOA. They're completely abiding by the JCPOA. You know, President Trump was insane to throw out the JCPOA because the Islamic Republic was abiding by it, and President Trump threw it out, tore it apart. And then we realized, like, nope, that was not true. All of these years, the Islamic Republic was just enriching uranium somewhere else. Surprise, surprise. But anyways, Noah, that was your topic. What are you going to say about that?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I thought you couldn't. So yeah, all I was gonna say was this. I pinned a link for you on the Iran International Farsi site. They're reporting that the U.S. Treasury is issuing a 60-day license for the regime to produce, sell, and deliver oil until Friday, August 30th. It's also been reported that this is in exchange for the regime to reopen the strait and to allow nuclear inspectors back into the country. They're also allowed to use their shadow fleet as well. So this is pretty interesting to read about this.
Who is reporting this?
Iran International. And also there's the post by Scott Bessent. So this is actually, I saw this being confirmed. Apparently, JD Vance also said that the Islamic Republic has agreed to allow IAEA inspectors back inside Iran, which is, if it's true, is a huge deal. And Scott Bessent posted this under President Donald Trump and Vice President. We continue to make the world safer and more prosperous. In line with the ongoing productive talks in Switzerland, Iran has committed to free and open transit in the Strait of Hormuz and to permit International Atomic Energy Agency. Let me see the full post. This has only some of it. So inspectors into their country. As part of the framework, Treasury has issued a temporary 60-day general license authorizing the production, delivery, and sale of Iranian oil. So this is a sanctioned removal on the Islamic Republic approved by President Trump, Scott Bessent, and JD Vance. It's now in effect, apparently. So this is something that I was asking about, and apparently I was wrong about this, because I thought any waivers on the sanctions should be approved by Congress. But now they're all announcing that, nope, it's happening. And the Islamic Republic, because they agreed to the IAEA inspectors to come in, it's not just a blockade removal. They are actually getting a general license to basically sell their oil without sanctions. So basically not just to China at the discounted price, but basically without the sanctions in the free market, and also their petrochemical products as well. So this has been announced. So yeah. So Noah, what do you think about this? You want it before we go to other people responding to this?
Yeah, I think it's pretty damning. I mean, the fact that the regime has all, I can't tell if it's all sanctions lifted or if it's just on oil. But it's still pretty ridiculous. And apparently, I remember during the JCPOA, the Treasury does have the authority to lift sanctions, but it's not permanent. So, like that's why President Trump was able to reimpose sanctions and leave the JCPOA back then because of that. But if I remember correctly, it's not only Congress can fully lift the sanctions, but they can do it temporarily, if I remember correctly.
So JD Vance also confirmed this, saying the Islamic Republic of Iran has agreed to allow IAEA inspectors back into the country, a step towards permanently ending its nuclear weapons program. U.S. Vice President JD Vance said on Monday, following the Lake summit in Switzerland. Let me actually unpin you now that you close your camera. Vance said the talks, which brought together officials from the United States, Iran, Qatar, and Pakistan, also established coordination mechanisms to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and to deconflict the regional ceasefire. So one thing also that I could tell you is that they're saying that the Islamic Republic's walkout from the meeting was fake. So President Trump posted something that angered the Islamic Republic people, and they say like, okay, we're going to stop talking, and they walked out of the negotiations. But they're saying that was a fake walkout, and in response to President Trump's threats. And then after the walkouts, they went and continued the talk behind the scenes anyways. And apparently they made so much progress, apparently they're saying, that the Islamic Republic agreed the IAEA will go back. So this is basically very much like the JCPOA kind of, if this is what they want to go with. So this all better be fake until the midterms, buying time, because this is giving me Obama deal vibes. You know, I don't know what you guys think. Is there any twos in the chat? This, I hope this is like the whole buying time for until the midterms ends up being true, because if it's not, this is worse than the Obama deal. But go on.
All right, next we have Jeff on this Jose on this topic. I'm sorry, Jose, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Sorry about that earlier, Armin. I had my mic on and I didn't realize it. No, there's only one problem with Congress touching it. It's not a treaty. They have no authority over it. Until it's sent to them as a treaty, they can't say shit. And that's the basic of it. So, and they haven't had any luck on the War Powers Act. So, whatever. I don't know if this is going to be like the JOCOA as much as I still see it as it's going to fail one way or the other. Because they're still saying that they're blockading the strait. You saw that, you played a video of that one soldier, IRGC soldier, stating what they're willing to fight, back us up, get on the streets, do this and do that. So the division is still there.
All right. I would like to comment that guy might just not want to go to his wife. Like, no, let's keep the fight. I want to stay at the beach. Don't send me home. I'm just joking a little bit there. But next on this topic, we have Jeff.
Sketch your funny guy. Just 2 quick points of observation. Well, 3. One, I would contend the midterms is a secondary issue. Again, the main issue is critical munitions, basing, all this other stuff that's operationally kind of in origins. The other one is, so here's the difference between the current deal and the JCPOA. So in the JCPOA, no targets were killed, and the JCPOA was floated in a far more accommodating geopolitical and geostrategic environment, meaning that we didn't have to do the JCPOA. It would have been easier to bomb them and take out the regime then than it is now, vis-a-vis the deconcentration of power that has occurred thanks to a lot of fucked up policies from Democrat administrations and or assisted by some libertarian elements in Congress. The current deal killed over 21,000 targets, and we have to juggle more operational issues due to the nature of the geopolitical and geostrategic environment. In other words, you have Putin getting ready to hit the Baltic states, China getting ready to hit Taiwan. Obama didn't have to do the JCPOA, right? He chose to do it when he had far more free hand to not do that. Whereas today, President Trump did his operational pause because it had to be done due to other geopolitical and geostrategic challenges, while still having. So in other words, Donald hit the Mullah regime when it was far less of a permissive environment, which also kind of shows just how great the threat was that the regime posed and its remnants still pose, and 2, how much Donald loves the Iranian people and our Israeli allies. We struck the Mullah regime and used things that is going to have an impact in other areas. Obama could have did that when there was no impact. There's a lot of difference between those 2 things. As far as like what it means operationally for the regime, remnants, that's why, again, it's very critical that those other lines of effort are pursued, not the least of which is recognizing His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government as the official government in exile, because that streamlines a lot of other things, so we can very much undermine the ability of the regime remnants to try and skimp stuff off the top to reconstitute their capability. And that's, of course, if we don't go back to military operations, which, if they keep fucking with Donald, that's a good possibility.
All right, close us out on this topic. We have Armin and then Super Chats.
Okay, so I was wrong about the Need of Congress for sanctions removal. So this is why I I was confused. I was saying, like, how could President Trump come out? Like, how could the MOU promise sanction removal at the front without saying behavior from the Islamic Republic, especially given that the White House cannot just do sanction removal for the Islamic Republic. They need Congress approval. That's what I thought they need. And now I looked into it and I was wrong about this. The president doesn't need Congress for a temporary pause. So the executive branch can act alone using two tools, built-in waivers. Congress usually includes national security waivers in its laws, allowing the president to temporarily suspend sanctions. So that's one. And two, there's executive orders. Most specific U.S. sanctions were created by presidential executive order, not by Congress. The president can unilaterally pause what they created. Congress can only stop it by passing a new veto-proof law to strip the president of this waiver power. So apparently the president can remove these sanctions, unfortunately, in my opinion. Okay, let me do 4 super chats. We got 4. Thank you, guys. Texas Tucker Jeff saying, "Hey there, yo, Hossein Durka," and his profile picture is me with the Shia, bandana and everything, and sunglasses and everything. So Shia headgear with me, and so he's saying it on my behalf. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah. Hey there, yo, Hossein, back at you. And then we got a fleshy interloper saying, "More buying, nothing but Islamic Republic lies." Yep. And thank you for the super chat. And then we have Kelly. Thank you so much for the super chat. Kelly saying they never allowed the inspectors into all the facilities. They never did. And that's why every time some idiot tells you that the Islamic Republic was abiding by the JCPOA, tell them that they're an idiot. That's fucking bullshit. They were not. They were basically like, yes, they were abiding by the JCPOA in those specific areas, in the few specific areas that the JCPOA had access to, but they were doing other things in other parts of Iran. And then Ehef with a super chat saying, "Oh, I get two more left." Saying, "Ehef, thank you so much for the super chat." Saying some of it could be optics. They expect it to fail, and when it does, they go to everyone else and say, "We tried, gonna go grow a spine now." So that might be true. However, they're getting money now, so that's the issue with that. The Islamic Republic is now they're selling billions and billions of dollars worth of oil right now. They were so desperate, they were losing. They had their backs to the wall, and they were ready to accept anything. So the United States had them cornered, and now all of a sudden they're getting billions of dollars. So some people are saying, let me actually read this for you. Actually, now that's the issue a lot of people are having is this. All right, let me just read this quickly. Iran has exported approximately 36 million barrels of crude oil since June 15, according to maritime intelligence firm Tanker Trackers, underscoring the rapid return of oil shipments following the partial easing of restrictions on Iranian exports. So they didn't waste a second to take advantage of the removal of the restrictions. Like, that is a lot of oil that they just got out immediately and sold. So that's going to go to, that's a lot of money that is going to go to, I don't know, arming Hezbollah to shoot at Israelis. So that's the thing that a lot of people don't understand. But again, a lot of people are like, okay, yeah, Armin, this is bad. But again, if the Democrats win during the midterms, it will be worse. So we got to do what we got to do. So that's what some people are saying. And then some other people respond to us like, yep, keep coping, keep doing your 5D chess nonsense. Every time we want to criticize, you're going to come up with a long-term optics 5D chess plan excuse. So I'm presenting both sides of this argument for you guys. Yeah? I want to just present them both to you guys there so you guys could see what's happening, and you could make up your mind on yourself. And then we have Justin with another super chat. Thank you so much, Justin, saying something I've learned always, if not always, the simplest answer to a question is the correct answer. Yeah, that's called Occam's razor. And then you continue saying, find out the simplest answer to the question, what Trump's doing, and you find the answer. Well, here's the thing, Justin. Here's the problem with Occam's razor sometimes. Sometimes it's not easy to figure out what's the simplest answer. Because for you to figure out the simplest answer, you have to be able to calculate the possibility of every answer. And sometimes calculating the possibility of every answer is difficult, because not only you don't know you don't have all the information, you also don't have the information that you don't know that you need to know to be able to calculate. So it's the known knowns and the unknown. So it's the known unknowns and it's the unknown unknowns. So it would, but that is true. The simplest explanation is usually the most plausible. It's the most plausible one. But how do you calculate the simplicity of each answer if you don't have all the information? And thank you, Justin, for pointing that out. And Justin is agreeing, saying true, Armin. Yeah. Okay. All right. What's the next topic?
Yes, the next topic is from Halda, and it's on the increased regime presence. Go ahead.
So before Halda says something, I just want to clarify something, guys. Saying something is the most simple, it doesn't mean it's simple. Something could be extremely complicated. Most simple doesn't mean something is simple. Saying most simple, it means that it has the least number of assumptions you need to take for an answer to be the most simple, and it could still be extremely complicated, but compared to other answers, the least complicated, because you have to make lesser assumptions for them. Sorry, Halda, go ahead.
That's okay. I'm just becoming, increasingly concerned about, what we're seeing with, American politics, obviously, and this supposed ceasefire, which I'm starting to really question. I'm really curious about funds, going into the regime. And I mean, you already touched a bit on that already, but in Iran's international, trying to talk and type at the same time, there's an article showing that the morality police vehicles have already been deployed again. Granted, we're only talking about 2 cities so far, but it seems to me like this is an indication that they're trying to increase, their reach again, and trying to get things back to, their idea of normal, referring to the Islamic regime and the IRGC, of course. And I wondered what your thoughts were on that.
First of all, thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for paying attention to that. And thank you for bringing that up. I do really appreciate the fact that you guys are paying attention. It's, I don't know. It means a lot to us. I mean, I've never in my life have I seen so many people who are not Iranian are paying, like they're saying, oh, the morality police is being brought back in Iran. That level of attention to the details within Iran. Thank you. And yes, you're right. They are doing that. My guess for why that is happening is to appease the anti-deal people, right? The anti-deal people are thinking that, holy shit, we've lost the Islamic Republic. This is everything, like this country is not Islamic anymore. The supreme leader is being kidnapped, held hostage. We're bending the knees to the Americans and to the Zionists. And hijabless girls are like, for years, these are the same people who are anti-deal within the Islamic Republic are the same people who already thought that the Islamic Republic is falling because women are walking hijabless inside Iran. So the main complaints that these people have, there are 4 things that the pro-regime, jihadi-minded pro-regime Iranians have an issue with the Islamic Republic, right? 4 issues. First is too many women walking around without hijab, without any meaningful enforcement, which basically means that this is not an Islamic country because God's law is not being enforced. Not enough execution on anti-regime Iranians. For example, after the Mahsa revolution, these people were expecting executions in the thousands. And they're like, why are we getting executions like 10, 20? Like they're definitely way more people who are anti-regime. Why are like their low execution numbers is something that they are upset about often. And then the two remaining ones is a pathetic, weak response against Israel and pathetic, weak responses against the United States. So these are their main issues, right? So given that the MOU and the negotiations is making these people really angry with number 3 and number 4 issues, so maybe the regime is like, let's give them something to be happy about. Let's bring in the morality police and put out some videos get some videos circulating on social media that we're being tough on hijabless women to make these people happy. That's what I'm thinking is that's what's happening. What do you think, Alda, in response to that?
I think that that's an interesting conclusion, and it does make sense. Of course, I think all of us are just concerned in general, that this is an indication of returning back to life as normal, and I'm certainly hoping not. But I do think, though, that they've got to somehow sell the reputation to each other, and to the public. So yeah, I could see your position here. Thanks. I appreciate you taking the time to explain it.
And now that I think about it, yesterday we talked about the singer, that lady Parastu, forgot her last name. She's getting 74 lashes. I don't know if you guys watched us on her show. That there was this woman who came up with a 30-minute video, with her musical video, a beautiful, beautiful musical video, right after the Mahsa revolution, to an empty audience, and she sang, without hijab and everything. And she and her crew now. So this has been, how many years has it been? This has been 4 years. 4 years ago. Yeah, Digital in the chat saying yes. I mean, that's fucking enraged me. Yes. So 4 years ago, right after the Mahsa revolution, she came up with that song. She had a concert with no audience, and she put the video out there. And for 4 years, they didn't get a sentence, right? And now they finally got their sentence. Her and everybody in her crew is going to get 74 lashes. If I remember, it was Parastu Ahmadi. Thank you, Neil Bunny. So now that you mentioned this, Halda, I was wondering. Now actually not wondering. I actually know this now, because the Islamic Republic, whenever people do something against the regime, they arrest the people and they don't punish them right away. They keep them for when messages need to be sent, either to anti-regime Iranians or to the pro-regime Iranians. So you might be going into the streets and protest, and they take you, they arrest you, they might give you a death sentence, and then they don't execute you. You might even have a death sentence and they don't execute you, because they hold you for the proper time. So for example, if they fear an uprising, they bring the people out. They're like, okay, let's put some executions to scare people not to do an uprising. The people that they put them, they keep them in their back pocket for executions, right? It's crazy. So either the executions and the torture go up, either if they feel an uprising is coming and they need to remind people that they can still bite and that they're scary, or if they think that the pro-regime people are pissed and angry and they need to show that this is still Islamic land, the Islamic law is still being enforced, then they execute. And so for example, we outside of Iran, we go around and say oh no, look at this, let's embarrass the regime, let's bring awareness to the fact that Parastu Ahmadi is being lashed. And we sometimes we think oh, that's going to be bad for the regime. And it is bad for the regime because of the external pressures that brings to them. But it's also true that the regime wants that message to be spread, because the only reason why they're doing it is for people, is either for the pro anti-regime people to get scared, or for the pro-regime people to be to see that, okay, you know, yeah, we're not, at least she's getting what she's deserved, you know, at least, okay, at least that woman who dared come out and defy Islam like that, okay, like that made them, at least I could feel a little bit better that she's getting what she deserved, like as a way to reduce the rage that these people are having. But I saw you put another two. Halda, you wanted to say something else?
I just had a really quick question regarding that, based on, you know, what you just said. So if we're seeing the morality police coming back out into the streets, what are your thoughts of potential increased executions of both protesters and potentially dissidents?
A lot, but here's the thing that the regime has to calculate. The regime has realized that executions don't make Iranians short term, makes Iranians, you know, retreat, but longer term, the piled up anger actually increases the size of the next uprising, right? So they are constantly like doing calculation and analysis, and some leaked data shows that they actually have a lot more sophisticated data and understanding of how their actions influences people. So they're dealing with a lot of complicated calculations. They're short term, if they think like an uprising is happening, they do executions to short term reduction in this possibility. But they also know that we know that they know that the executions actually longer term increases the chances of an uprising. It doesn't decrease it. It does. And also there's another thing interesting, is that more and more pro-regime people realize that sometimes the morality police, when they come out, it's limited and it doesn't actually have that much of an impact. So they get frustrated because they're like, okay, you just went and arrested 4 people and made sure that the videos get out there to go viral so that you could fool us. But I was just out in, I don't know, Vanak, and everybody is hijabless. So you guys, like, let's say that the regime is fooling us with just 4 or 5 arrests, and they feel pissed that the regime is basically trying to make them feel like Islamic law is being enforced, even though it was very limited arrests. So there's also that.
All right. On this, I'd like to say, I remember that you said, Gullibuff was saying, and we don't have the money. We don't have the money to pay anyone. I don't know if these people get paid in rice bags or whatever they get paid in, if they get a little of something for their trouble here. But this is one of the reasons that I hope the MOU is broken and the blockade comes back, because that would mean that they would have less money to do these kind of, let's say it's just propaganda. They'd have less money for that. Let's say it does get widespread and they are out there finding excuses to crack down. In either of those cases, I do hope that they keep being as crazy and dirty as they are, that they do break that MOU and it doesn't even need to reach another week. And it goes back, not, listen, maybe if it doesn't go back to military operations, but at least back to a blockade, I would appreciate that. And this is one of the reasons, because they're not going to stop, and the less money they have, the better. So on this, my thoughts are, we have some other tools that we'll speak soon. On this, my thoughts are, this is one of the reasons we have to be very, very careful that this MOU is followed to the letter. I doubt if we make sure that it is enforced correctly, it will last more than a week or 2 weeks, and if the blockade comes back. I'm a little upset that anything has been paid at all, but you know, these are my thoughts on this. I know that the president's mad because he has no money. I know that they use the money to get their enforcers out there. So with that, we're going to move on to some twos. I believe Noah also had a word on this. Noah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just remember seeing a video today in Qom about Iranian of an Iranian woman being harassed by pro-regime supporters, saying we're going to contact the police because you're not wearing an hijab or face head covering, basically. So I find it outrageous that they're doing this again. But I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they're done with using them. They needed them. The hijabless women were very useful during the time. I mean, I don't know. By the way, I don't know if they're done with using them. I think there's different segments. Some people are like, yes, let's bring this hijabless girls into our religious ceremony so we could like do some propaganda. And then there are other parts of the Islamic Republic supporters who are like, what the fuck is this? Why are we allowing this? So I think but I think the people who are saying that let's do this, let's use them for propaganda, they have the upper hand during wartime. And the people who are saying like, what the fuck, this isn't Islam, we're not enforcing Islamic law, they have more of an upper hand in stable times.
We did also see the lady from Saw. Remember that? Oh my God.
Yeah.
The one with all the plastic surgery. It was
my
kind of
God.
terrible.
Yeah. Oh my God. That was disgusting.
I don't have any more replies. I don't know how though. If you would have to like to add to the last reply, this is why many of us are against the MOU. I just hope it fails quick and goes back to a lockdown.
You and me both, but I'm starting to become more and more concerned that it won't, simply because of American politics. But at this point, we can just wait and see. But I appreciate everybody taking the time to answer my questions.
Thank you. We appreciate you bringing in this topic. It was an important topic.
And it's a pleasure to be of service. I say this to Armin a lot. It's a pleasure to be of service. It's a pleasure to be of service to all of you. You know, servicemen leave to serve. It's our greatest pleasure is being useful. So thank you all. I'm going to move on to the last topic we have of the day here. It's by Amy, and we're talking about the Haydar Parade. I didn't even know they had a Haydar Parade in New York City.
I do have a super chat before we go to Amy, really quickly. Your Shadow is giving us a super chat, but before I read the super chat, what is that profile picture? I look good. That's me in a suit. And it looks good. Holy shit. I'm gonna, this has motivated me to wear a suit now. I look good in this profile picture. That's great. Okay. Okay, so your Shadow, thank you so much for the super chat saying, sending some love, appreciate to the maximum to the host, the school community, and most of the chat over here too. Javid Shah. Okay, so appreciation to everybody, including me, including people in the school community and all the people on the YouTube chat. Very nice, very sweet, from a very much more handsome than me, Armin Navabi, in the profile picture. Okay, you know what? I'm going to go buy a suit. What the hell? I haven't worn a suit for such a long time, but now I am convinced. Thank you. All right. Okay. Well, next topic, what was that again?
It was a Haydar Parade in New York City.
Wow. Okay. Haydar Parade. Amy.
Problems all day. Has anybody heard of this? I mean, I looked it up, and there's a guy that streamed the whole thing from the Islamic side, so I'm imagining it was for propaganda purposes. His name, or the channel on YouTube, is New York Hopper. You can find the full video. We hear protesters all the time when Israel does any kind of march in New York, but you don't hear anything about anyone going out and protesting the beating of the chests and, the black flags marching down to Madison Avenue. So I was wondering if anybody else in the group had heard or knows anything about this or aware of it. That's my question.
I think we have the best person responding to you. Neil Bunny put it to. Yep, go on, Neil Bunny.
Yeah, it's not new. I've seen that. I lived in New York. So yeah, and that was I think the first time I saw that was probably 2002, I think. Yeah. It was scary. I had no idea what it was. And it was a lot of, it was just all these guys and their shirts off and they're hitting themselves with like ropes and stuff. And it was terrifying, but it's not new. And it was around about this time, actually. It was really hot, I remember. So yeah, I don't know what it is. Maybe Armin knows. Is there like some kind of holiday where it's like Hadar Day? I don't know.
Okay, it's right about now, actually. Okay, I'll just respond to you guys before to go to Jose, because let me tell you it's Muharram, it's Ashura, Tasua, it's for Hussein. So, and I'll tell you what they're actually, what they think that they're doing and what is actually behind it, right? And yeah, I've seen it in more and more cities in the West. Matter 7 Muharram, or for Ashura and Tasua, getting bigger and bigger, and it started getting big in the West 20 years ago, and it's now growing. So this is for Hussein. You guys keep hearing me saying Hussein, 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 and I think when it comes to the growth of the Islamic Republic in the West, Westerners need to understand what this Hussein is about. And because they use Hussein as a way to infiltrate everywhere, right? So Hussein is a grandson of Muhammad, and to Shias, he's more important than Muhammad. He's more important than the Quran. They would never admit this to you. They say they will tell you that I'm lying, and they would never admit this. But this is true. Hussein is more important than Muhammad. He's more important than the Quran. He's more important than God himself, right? And he was killed. Him and his crew, 72 of them, were killed in the Karbala. Back then it wasn't a city. They eventually turned it into a city because it became a shrine to Hussein. Yazid's army killed Hussein. And Hussein was fighting Yazid because he was ruling, and he was not supposed to be a ruler, and he was not ruling based on Islam. And Hussein was rising up against them to bring Islamic rule back, and Yazid easily destroyed and killed his army and beheaded his army, beheaded him. And every year, the Shia Muslims around the world come out at a specific time in the lunar Islamic calendar. They come out and they remember his death, and they cry and they beat their chest for Hussein, right? And Hussein is like a kind of like Jesus in Shia Islam, because he died for our sins. He died for their sake, because Muslims are not living Islamic lives. So he's actually a copy of Jesus, in the sense that he died for the sake of bringing Islam back and making sure that Islam stays alive. And he did that with his blood. He kept Islam alive. And because it's a lunar calendar, it means that it's always it moves around. So it's supposed to be every year, but it's like it could be in the middle of summer, and then a couple of years it's in the middle of the winter. So it's not a solar calendar, so that's why it moves around, right? So it's every year based on the lunar Qamari Islamic calendar. So that's what they're doing. But what's actually happening is that they're creating a funnel. They're creating, how sales funnels work? You have your cold leads, and then you have your warmer leads, and then you come down the funnel, and then eventually you buy. This is a funnel. The base of the funnel are people who are not Muslims, but you will convince them that Hussein was a good person. So one thing you notice in all of this is by the Islamic Republic. So every time you see one of these, what is it called? Procession in English, yeah. Marosem call it, right? In the West, just know that this is paid for the Islamic Republic as a way to grow their roots into the base of your country. and they have different types of audiences for this. They have the Muslims who are not Shia, they have Shia, and the Muslims who are Shia, and then they have the leftist non-Muslims, right? So for the Shias within your country, they're trying to bring them in and eventually turn them from being Shia to pro Velayat Faqih Shia. Basically, being Shia is not good enough. You need to be a Shia that thinks that the head of the Shia, the head of the Islamic world is in Tehran, and it's the guardianship of the jurists, and the supreme leader in Iran is supposed to be your marja' taqlid, the person that you're supposed to take in commands from. If you're Sunni, they bring you, the goal is for you to eventually see these people as the true warriors for Palestine, and they would not be advocating for you to be a Shia. Their advocacy to you is that we need Muslim unity, and they will have interfaith Sunni Shia conferences for the sake of Palestine, and they will try to convince more Muslims who are not Shia that the only group, the only leader within the Islamic world that is actually fighting against global Zionism and for the Palestinian cause, it's in Tehran. Like the Saudis have abandoned you, the Emiratis have abandoned you, the Egyptians have abandoned you. So if you care for Palestine, if you want to fight global Zionism, this is the only way. And then the other audience is the leftists. And to them, they will not even talk about Islam. They will talk about Hussein as a freedom fighter who was fighting the terrorists at the time. They might even try to convince you that, the terrorists are Sunnis. Shias are not terrorists. In fact, Hussein, which is what the Shias follow, was fighting the terrorists of his time, which was Yazid. And all of these, jihadi people who do terrorism, they're ISIS, the Al-Qaeda, they're all Sunni, which is all bullshit. The main source of terrorism, funding for terrorism, has been the Islamic Republic for the past 50 years. Even the Sunni ones get funding by the Islamic Republic. And Hussein was the terrorist of his time. Yazid was going to rule like his father Muawiyah, and Muawiyah was actually bringing peace and stability and prosperity to the Arabs. He was kind of secular. He was tolerant of non-Muslim people, based on their, and that's why he was un-Islamic. And Yazid was going to rule like his father, and Hussein was going to rule like his father. Hussein's father was Ali, and Ali brought chaos to the world, to the Arab world. So Muawiyah's time was peace, prosperity, unity, and growth. And Ali's time, in Ali, when he became the fourth Khalifa, he had nothing, he brought nothing but internal conflict and death. The highest number of Muslims died because of Muslim on Muslim violence under Ali's rule. So Shias follow Ali, and Hussein was going to rule like his father. So Yazid was bringing stability, and Hussein was going to bring Islam. So Hussein was the terrorist, and Yazid was going to be the secular authority of his time. So there's that. I don't know if that was helpful.
All
Yeah,
right.
I like having the information, just to be able to go out there and fight the narrative. But I mean, can you give us like maybe an elevator pitch for this kind of thing to bring it to the forefront and show them, like Walmart Americans, what's going on?
So if they're saying what elevator pitch, hey, let me ask for help for like the expert on Walmart Americans. Sketch, how do you translate everything I just said to Walmart American language?
These people have an Islamist worldview. It's kind of crazy, but we'll go down how it goes. Okay, these people are trying to change your laws. At first, they do it through processions, and they do it through having calls to people with a similar ideology and getting voting blocks. They get together, they have their little ceremonies as a show of force that leads to leftist going along with them to the left. They say, hey, freedom fighters. And then they try to gain more political force. Then the politicians kind of fall in line because that's a voting bloc and you want to bow to that. But these are terrible people and you have to be very, very careful because the laws they put in will not help you at all.
Yeah. Also, one thing you could add is that these are the people who are obsessed with Palestine and they're obsessed with being anti-Israel, and they are trying to make the politics of your country about things that don't change, that has nothing to do with you. They want to make the politics of your country. They're creating a voter base to make the politics of your country about defending the Palestinian cause. That's what they're trying to do.
All right. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
They also do this worldwide. They're doing this in Japan. I'm pretty sure they'll do this in UK. It's worldwide. I think Nail Bunny put a 2 in. Let me see. Yes. I think I have Nail Bunny, then Jose. I'll say something at the end. No? Jose says no? You were not? You don't want to go? Okay.
Okay. You go on.
I just thought it was intimidating, but but I don't think that there's any way to walk down the street hitting yourself without being intimidating. So I honestly, I just thought it was weird when I saw it. And the thing about it is that I feel like people really need to understand, and I'm not defending, believe me, I'm not defending Mamdani, but people are sort of, like there was that video maybe a month or two ago of somebody filming, in Brooklyn. And it was in Brooklyn. And I know it was in Brooklyn because I lived on that street. And they were like, you could hear the call to prayer. And the thing is, it was like, oh, Mamdani. And then everyone's freaking out and no, look what they're doing. And it was just like, that street in that exact spot has been like that forever. It's just, it's an overreaction. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not defending it. We definitely didn't have people praying in Times Square, but that neighborhood, that's the little Middle East. I mean, that's like right near the Damascus Bakery. Across from that is another place you can get the amazing, pastries, and it's just that is the neighborhood, and it looks exactly the same as when I lived there. And I lived there I lived in Brooklyn 24 years ago, and it was exactly the same. In fact, it didn't even look any more. It was just like, yeah, that is exactly what it looked like.
Anybody who thinks that you're defending Islam or Mamdani has no idea what it has. It doesn't know you one bit. Okay, so
there's a reason I'm showing my face. You have any idea how much I have said about the Prophet? Yes. No.
Yes. One thing interesting that you guys might find funny. I don't know if you would or not, but in Iran, many young boys and girls who go to Ashura, they're not going there for Islamic reason. I mean, at least when I was in Iran, I remember that many boys go and take their shirts off and beat their chests, not because they be Islamic reasons, but because they know there are many girls who show up at these processions just to watch shirtless boys. And the boys are showing up to show off to the girls, and the girls are showing up to watch shirtless boys. So that's a tradition also in Iran, that some people are taking advantage of all of this. So there's also that. Okay. So I need to go on.
One last thing. I have a video from Apologetics Prophet from 2 months ago where he went to this Ramadan in Times Square. They took over Times Square. I think it's not a common thing. I think they do it for special occasions like Ramadan. So they're like, meet me halfway. So that did kind of happen. But I agree. And I look forward to any update from Nail Bunny on UK, because UK stuff is happening. And with that, we got to go. Love you guys.
Yeah, you guys continue. I got to go. You guys continue the conversation. And yes, Nail Bunny, more UK updates. Thank you so much. And then yes, so that's me. And guys, in half an hour, no, well, in 26 seconds, I'm gonna go live again on Liberty Politics YouTube channel. So make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell notification so when I go live in about 26 minutes, you don't miss that. And that's me and I'll see you guys in the group same time tomorrow. Till then, I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukraine, Cuba Libre, Long live America, Javid Shah, Payande Iran. Mwah. See you guys.